Hello, everyone. Greetings, programs. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. We are here tonight with a one-shot using the Expedition engine, in particular, the TRON version of the Expedition engine. And I am really excited to get back to this. I've never had the chance to run this system with this setting before, and I think it's going to be a really, really good marriage between. And I'm excited to see how it's all going to turn out. So before I pass things over to my players, I am going to go ahead and warn if you are offended by foul language and mature topics of conversation, this is not the channel for you. This is not the game for you. You should look elsewhere for your entertainment. If those kinds of things don't bother you, then welcome, kindred spirit. I've always really liked Tron, especially Tron Legacy. I really like the aesthetic that they present in that setting. It's really, really just mesmerizing is probably the best word I can think to describe it. So I'm really, really hoping that we can capture some of the lore and things that kind of lies underneath the aesthetic that I've come to love from the movie and the comic. So I'm going to pass things over to my players. They can do their introductions, say hello, plug whatever they'd like, and then we are going to get started. So first up, no stranger to the channel, Steve.
Man, I hope you were going to pick me last. I was trying to figure out what the date of our Sunderheart thing is. Go. Found it. Yep. Thanks. So I'm Steve. I'll be playing Chemo tonight. And like Jeremy said, I'm on the channel a lot. I do have my own channel. It is Threedy Six, although it's not super active at the moment. And then, on the 30th, tune back into Jeremy's channel specifically for Sunderheart Episode 3. It's a collaborative world-building project where we're bringing in a different guest every month to work with us. And this time it's Jeff Doty, and we're working with magic, I believe, which is good because every time we talk, we end up with magic anyway. So this time we can't stray too far. It's right there.
Very, very true. And Jeff is also another very good friend of mine, and is very gifted whenever it comes to describing magic in particular. So I'm very excited to kind of dive back into Sunderheart, which is shaping up to be a really badass setting. I'm really enjoying that process. All right, next up we have Leslie.
So I'm Leslie. I'm playing Kaz tonight. I'm pretty new to tabletop RPGs, anything along those lines, so I'm still kind of a newbie with all this, and I'm excited to try the Expedition engine for the first time tonight. And yeah, I don't have my own channel because I'm that much of a newbie.
Well, I'm really, really glad that we caught you when you were still green, so we can help you make the right kind of mistakes. No, no, I'm really excited. I've run several games with this system before, but this is the first time that I've ever run a Tron game, and I think the system has a lot to offer, but I'll leave that up to you as you learn it tonight. Okay, next up we have Seth.
Hello, my name's Seth. Tonight I will be playing a Bend. I also do not have anything to plug. I don't have a channel. However, I'm not necessarily a stranger to this channel. I've been in a couple of one-shots on this fantastic channel. So I'm very excited to see what we can get into tonight.
Absolutely, man. I'm glad to have you back. We don't get the chance to game together often, but every time that we have, I've enjoyed it thoroughly, so I'm happy that you're back on the channel. All right, next up, we have Dwight.
Hey, my name's Dwight. I'll be playing Agdal tonight. I also absolutely love Tron. I'm really excited about this setting. I think Tron in general is criminally underrated, and I will watch the two Tron movies at least once or twice a year, and love the games. I've read some of the comments and everything, so I'm super excited to be here playing in this. This is my first time on Jeremy's channel as well, but I think we have played together once or twice, I believe. But I also don't, I guess, well, I do have a channel, but there's literally nothing on it. All I do is host MiniTerrainDomain, because that's where you can find me on Monday nights. I play Bevan Wiseacre on Waterdeep Dragon Heist, all the Glitters Waterdeep Dragon Heist on Monday nights at MiniTerrainDomain. So that's my plug for Jake's channel. And that's me.
Perfect. Yeah, I think we have played in a single game together before.
Yeah, and then we did a one-shot.
Yeah, I think that's right. But yeah, man, I'm really excited to have you on the channel, to get the chance to play with you. And yeah, I think I put the link for Jake's Twitch channel with your name in the description of the video below. If I didn't, I will rectify that at some point later. As well as anybody who mentions a channel, you should be able to find the link to that down in the, to quote the man himself, doobly-doo, down below. All right, and last but certainly not least, Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen. I have a channel called Myth and Gears. It's a little bit quiet over there right now, but hopefully in the upcoming months it'll start to pick up again. We play D&D, but mostly Genesis, which is pretty cool. So if you haven't checked that system out, you should try it. Tonight I am playing Void, and I am pretty darn excited about this game. So with that said, let's get to it.
I mean, I guess. You're all here and all. Okay. So, I think I covered everything. Yeah, if you discover some kind of issue with the system, you don't like it or whatever, well, screw you. No, I'm kidding. It is a system of my own design, so bear with us. I put a link to it in the YouTube chat. You can find this as well as the other versions of the system. Try it out. It's free. Let me know what you think if you do get the chance to play it. All right, so I think without further ado, I think we're ready to do this. White lightning flashes across a storm-streaked night as data is transmitted through the sky in glowing beams, connecting the outer servers to the grid. Beneath, in a surface like gently rolling black glass, these knife-like flares are mirrored across the sea of simulation, the birthplace of the ISOs. Considered to be a miracle by the user Kevin Flynn, this sentiment was not shared by Clue. It was he who poisoned the sea so that it would never again produce another ISO. The appearance of the virus known as Abraxas gave Clue the excuse he needed to enact his plans to wipe out all the ISOs. Blaming the viral outbreak on them, he fueled the uncertainty and distrust already rampant among the basic programs. Argia City was obliterated, and Radia along with it. Now, ISOs are being hunted down and de-rezzed in the streets of every city on the grid. Security has become stronger and more oppressive than ever before. Clue must have discovered that there are more ISOs hiding in the Outlands, and now, it would seem, he has realized the general location of Bostrom Colony. Construction has begun on a large facility, located on the outskirts of TRON City, the closest he can get while still being connected to the grid. Rumors abound that the system-linked vehicles built here will be able to venture further off the grid than they ever have before. A recognizer growls overhead. on a sweep through the Outlands. After it moves away, we see a single ISO. The stark white of his clothing breaking up the jagged pattern of the black rocks he was hiding amongst. Volkur, a high-ranking program who serves the housing, has ventured here with the 5 of you. He beckons you from hiding. Who do we see emerging from the clusters of rocks?
So I think stepping out from a craggy sort of indention into the rocks is this young man. He has very angled features and pensive or dour look on his face as his eyes narrow as he follows the trail of the recognizer as it travels across. Stepping out, he dusts some of the residue from the rock, some of the dust, and shakes his head. That won't be the only one. But he's right, it's clear. Step out. Let's get on with this.
And a voice just over your shoulder would say, "You're right. That won't be the only one." And silently, you didn't even hear her as she mostly, less of a kind of emerged from the rock, but it's just she appeared where she wasn't there before. And you see this female figure, all in black, with a cloak. Where the face would be is a dark, empty hole. Nothing there. You can't see any facial features whatsoever. And the colors pulsing in her suit are purple, which is unusual for any program. She carries with her a big stick, if you will, but almost scythe-like in its shape. And she turns to Volker. "We must hurry."
So next, this shape kind of just shuffles out. It's kind of hunched over. You see the figures just looking around, looking up into the sky, looking around behind again, kind of a black suit with blue lighting, and just a little bit on the pudgy side, is looking around. We can't be here. No, we have to move. This is bad. This is bad. And he's just looking behind and trying to wave on. Actel does not like this. We need to move. We need to move.
And another program comes out from behind the rocks, a male figure with blue traditional lighting as well that goes around his hood, and you can see his eyes through or behind his hood, but no other facial features are visible. And a lot of the blue circuitry seems to be condensed around his hands, and strolls out rather confidently. They have a regular patrol route, and this is our only chance, or we'll be stuck here for who knows how many cycles. Let's get moving. And is kind of gung ho and ready to get moving.
The last figure appears from behind the rocks. A tall, slender male figure. Yellow circuitry around the hood of a cloak, the rims of his sleeves. He has the cloak pulled up currently, but as he steps out from behind the rocks, he takes the cloak down, kind of looks around. I think now would be the time. There's a brief pause between the next one coming. We should definitely move.
The white robed ISO in front of you turns and watches this recognizer begin to shrink into the distance of this kind of darkened sky. He turns to all of you and says, "The housing has found it to be utmost important. You must do this difficult task." He reaches onto his back, and with a sound of discharge, he disengages the disc that rests there. He places both of his hands on the glowing ring and twists the hands in different directions, one clockwise, the other counter. And as he does so, the disc separates into two pieces. He replaces half onto his back, and then with both hands, palms turned upward towards this stormy sky, he holds this disc out towards the five of you. You must bait one of these recognizers into landing. You must ambush the sentry programs and assume their identities. Once you have done so, you will take the recognizer and fly back to the facility that is being constructed, and you must insert this disc into the main terminal located there. The corrupted code that has been entered on this disc will do the rest. May the Maker watch over you.
In that moment of quiet, Chemo steps forward and he holds out his hands in a similar gesture, almost like a samurai might when receiving a sword from another individual, and waits for the half disc to be placed into his hands.
Chemo, you recognize Volkor, having come from the housing yourself. Volkor is a high-ranking monk within your order, and he looks at you for a long time in the eyes before he lowers the disc into your hands with a very heavy, solemn tone. This must be done.
Chemo nods his head. I understand what is at risk. And understand your sacrifice. And he turns and looks at the rest of the people. We will do everything that's required. You have my word.
Yes. We must go. We cannot be here.
With the final, almost sad expression, Volkor kind of looks over the five of you and then kind of gives a resolute nod of the head and turns, producing a baton from his hip, breaking it in half, which then forms a light cycle that he climbs onto the seat of and takes off into the darkness. So the five of you have now been given your mission, what it is that you must accomplish. So I would like, if you would please, to describe to me how you are going about accomplishing this. What comes next?
So Actel kind of steps forward into the center of the group, and he's real twitchy. He does not like being here. He wants to get this moving very much, but he looks at Aaron. You're good with computers like me, yes?
You're muted, sir. There you go.
Yes.
So we can take control of one of those, but we need to get on it. Who can someone draw them out and distract them, and we can get on. We can get on and fly.
As long as someone in the group can get one to land, I think we shouldn't run into too many problems once we are able to get onto it. It's just a matter of getting it down to us.
So I think Chemo nods and then looks across the group. You, young one, you're a repair program, aren't you?
I'm guessing gesturing towards Kaz.
Yeah.
Okay. Kaz would be very, very approachable in this conversation. Be like, yes, I am. Getting a recognizer to land probably won't be an issue, seeing as how Clue's forces have known that I've been assisting repairing ISO code for quite a while now, that they'd be more than happy to scoop up a fugitive.
I thought I recognized your face. I'd seen you on, well, they are fond of their wanted posters, aren't they?
Yet they don't seem to do that much good.
Well, perhaps you've just never met someone who's willing to turn you in. And with that, Kimo reaches inside of his coat and pulls out this box-looking thing, holds it in the palm of his hand, and a flare launches from it.
And I think as it kind of rockets skyward, when it actually hits a certain point and explodes, it looks like fireworks that we would recognize, except it's just a little too uniform. It's just a little too perfect in the way that it scatters light in all directions. And as that happens, you can see a distant recognizer in the sky, the telltale three-sided box of it, turning its red lights so that it faces your direction and begins coming towards you.
As soon as the as soon as the flare was launched, I would have just scurried in under whatever cover I could find nearby, trying to just not be visible when it comes.
Perhaps the rest of you should hide also.
I think you look around, and Void is already gone. She's already disappeared.
How about Kay's? Is Kay's staying out in the open or hiding?
I think Kays is staying out in the open, as kind of the target for the recognizer he's assuming right now.
Okay. Perfect.
Would probably take his baton and throw it kind of close to Chemo to show that he's been disarmed.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like Chemo, you are staying out in the open as well?
Yes.
Okay. And then how about Abend? Your mute button is freaking out, yo.
Why is it going crazy?
I have no
Okay,
idea.
sorry about that.
You're good.
My apologies. Abend would manage to kneel down somewhere near Actal, enough to find some kind of cover, but he'd probably want to have a decent enough spacing between the two that should one or the other, get caught up in something, there's a chance that one could break off.
Absolutely. You can find like another part of a cluster of rocks that he hid behind. It's maybe like a meter away or so. Cool. So for those of you who are attempting to hide, let's get a roll. This is typically a subtlety roll, but I am certainly welcome to hear arguments. Let's see. We have a hacker. You're both hackers. I would imagine that being hackers, sneaking around is probably not entirely outside of your wheelhouse. So let's say that you qualify for a second die. So you can roll 2d6. And we are rolling subtlety. So you want to get over your subtlety score. And this is individual die results.
Yeah, I rolled one of mine was a 4, so I'm good.
So you got one success then? Okay, cool. And also, if you end up rolling your exact score, we're going to need to note that separately. You earn basically points that you can cash in later for something else.
Oh, well, my other roll was a 3, so.
And that was your
and
score?
that is my score.
Okay,
that
perfect.
was my score. Yes.
So with that, you'll actually earn a GMP, which is a grid manipulation point. When you're called to make a roll, you can cash in 1 GMP to give you an automatic success, and you can spend as many of those on a single roll as you wish. Okay, so just note somewhere, or set aside a token, however you want to keep track, to let yourself know that you've got one. All right, and then 1 success means that you have managed to do so, but there is a cost. So we'll figure that out in just a second. Let's see how Abend did.
I actually rolled right around mine. I got a 5 and a 2. So my score was only a 4. So
okay, so you got 1 success then.
Yes.
As well. Okay, cool. Let's see. So both of you ended up succeeding at being hidden. But at a cost. Okay. And what about Void?
How many dice can I roll?
Oh, let's see. You are security. I don't know if sneaking around is necessarily something in your forte. So let's just do 1 die.
Okay, I got 1 success.
Excellent. Okay, so the 3 of you found a place to hide, but basically it's going to take you a turn before you're able to get to where the recognizer is going to end up landing closest to where Chemo and K's are. Okay. Everybody kind of positions themselves and hunkers down, waits. The recognizer continues to grow closer and closer.
I think as it gets closer, Chemo starts to circle K's in that very predatory, like eyes always on. But there is a tranquility to his voice, similar to what you might think of as water over rocks. Do not worry, K's. I have no intention of turning you over. Breathe in. Focus on what you know to be true. And when they land, when they do grab you, do not panic.
Kaz is... You can't really see any of his facial expressions, but he doesn't seem to be having an agitated body language or anything. He seems calm and cool, although you can tell that he's trying his best to put on an act of lowering his outward exudance of confidence, that he's trying to look a little bit more out of the element. But you can tell that his actual feelings are focus and cool confidence.
You all watch the lights beneath this recognizer's legs, these brilliant sources of blue-white, as it rumbles to a stop directly above where Chemo and Kaz are standing. As it comes to a stop, the wind put out by these thrusters causes everything that's loose to flap and waft in this extreme breeze as it begins to lower itself down, eventually setting its pigeon-legged feet to the ground and coming to rest, as a section from its center then lowers down these 2 very tall legs. It comes to a stop, and a staircase of orange steps appear one at a time until they reach the ground. 2 sentry programs exit and begin making their way towards the 2 of you. They hold long staves, glowing the same red-orange as their circuitry. Their faces blank and shiny black. They move ahead in kind of unison step with one another and then come to a stop slightly apart. Program. Identify. Identify.
So I just hold out one of these digitized wanted posters that shows Kaz's face.
There's this scanning noise that emits from inside of this thing's helmet as it stares at this poster with no expression and no noise, aside from this kind of purring that happens. He then looks up at Kaz and says, Identify.
Kaz would then just very briefly say, Kaz medical program. And he would kind of look to his surroundings a little bit, just out of the corner of his eye, to see if he could detect any movement from the rest of the party, but trying his best to just kind of not be too focused on the sentry programs, and just kind of trying to make it look like he's taking in the whole the recognizer and his situation.
The two of them step to either side of Kaz, and as they do so, one of them reaches over and places a set of basically handcuffs. These not there but there forces of light that are bent around your wrists and hold them close together. Each one of them takes a hand under your arm. Go ahead, Chemo.
As soon as they have those hands under Kaz's arms, there is this tinkling, almost like breaking of glass, as this weighted chain slides out of Chemo's sleeve. The chain looks like a series of ones and zeros that bind from his wrist to the weight that has a sharpened point, and there becomes this slight hum as he whips it around, aiming for the neck of one of the sentry programs.
All right. So, do me a favor. This sounds like probably subtlety? Perhaps speed? What do you think?
Either one works. Probably speed, because this is an attempt to like really quickly react to this.
Catch them off guard.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So, and you are loyal monk. Well, you're prepared at least for the situation, so I think you would qualify for a second die here.
So that is one success and one right on my number.
Okay. So again, you get a GMP, and
Yep.
one success means you do so, but at a cost. Okay. So these guys. Oh my goodness, I am ill prepared. Somebody have a D4 they can roll real quick before I get mine.
2.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so if you would please go ahead and describe to me what it looks like as you derez this security program, and then I will tack on to the end your consequence.
So that sounds horrifying. So the chain strikes out from this slight whirring motion and wraps around the neck, or what would be the neck of this sentry program, and with a quick yank the chain is tightened, and we see the helmet just sort of roll off the body to the floor. It makes that slight scanning noise as it scans its own program before it dereses.
And it turns into the telltale gleaming cubes that slowly separate from one another and then pour apart almost as if they were liquid before eventually just disappearing altogether. The other program, the other sentry program, turns to look at what has just happened, and you can tell it's trying to process what's just gone on. And they let go of you, Kaz, and turn to face Chemo, placing both of their black-gloved hands on this staff, and there's this kind of noise as the two ends kind of spark to orange light. So, Kaz, you have a chance to intervene if you'd like.
I think Kaz would. He would probably since he doesn't have use of his arms really at this point, he would kind of try to do a, I don't know how far away the sentry program is, but if far away enough, a kind of dive roll to kick out, to move to kick out his legs out from under him to knock the sentry program down.
Absolutely. Okay, so that sounds potentially like Grace. What do you think?
Yeah, Grace is good for me.
Grace, cool. You are spiritual medical. Okay, so I don't necessarily see martial arts as something that is within your character's expertise. But again, you guys were prepared to have the drop on these guys. This was all kind of discussed ahead of time, and it was a carefully laid trap. So go ahead and roll 2 dice.
Okay, so that is 1 success and 1 failure.
Okay. So you'll likewise succeed with a cost. Let's see. Okay. If you would please go ahead and describe what it looks like as you derez this computer, or this security.
Okay, so Kaz does a dive roll to knock the feet out from under the security program, causing it to fall forward onto its own glowing blade at this point, kind of going right under its jaw and kind of falling into a cubic puddle is the best way for me to articulate it right now, leaving just the staff remaining.
Absolutely. And I think there's probably like that digital like scream that's kind of broken apart, that kind of noise he makes as he's kind of falling into all of these cubes. Okay, so the 2 security programs on the outside of the recognizer have been dealt with. However, the rest of you can see that those orange stairs are now disappearing one at a time, and that platform is starting to raise back up those tall legs. So, all of you, if you would, please, go ahead and roll me a single D6. And let me know what you get.
4.
4, okay.
3.
3. 4 also?
4.
Okay.
Yep.
6.
6, okay.
I got a whopping 1.
Okay. So, that is for initiative. I rolled a 6. So, that's 4 of you that beat the die roll that I had, which means that there will be 4 PC slots that get to act before the NPC gets to go, and then the final PC will get to act this round. You can discuss and decide amongst yourselves who the 4 PCs that go first are and who will be going at the end of the round.
So I think Actel's going to wait for somebody else to act. He's not going to be leading the way.
So I think Void would maybe be one of the first that's already on its way towards the stairs, knowing that was our goal in the first place, and seeing how well Chemo and Kaz took care of the programs, she would be no hesitation, but would start going towards the stairs.
Absolutely. And because you guys had to hide so far away, you're having to cross quite a bit of distance to get to where this recognizer is. So you spend crucial time trying to cross that distance. And even though you were the first to react, we'll see if you're the first who arrives. All right, so that's 1 PC slot down.
Good.
No, go ahead.
I think Chemo seeing Void sort of like in my mind, right? Void's running across these craggy rocks, like leaping from almost one jagged point to another. And I think as she makes that final sort of jump, that one would put her in the air heading towards the stairs. I think Chemo whips his chain up and for her to grab onto, and then slings her towards the stairs as they're being, disassembled.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Let's get a roll from both of you. This sounds like Grace to me. Let's see. Security and Monk. So I think this is probably going to be a 2 dice situation from Void and a 1 dice situation from Chemo.
All right. So I have a 1 success.
Excellent.
So I rolled my number and I got a success.
Okay, cool. So make sure to mark down your GMP. So that totals out to 2 successes, which is...
I'm going to go ahead and spin my GMP so we get a critical success on it. Does that be 3 successes?
Okay, yeah, absolutely. All right. So, yes, you do it and you do it well. And there's a boon, and that boon will be not only are you going to be able to essentially cross greater distance, Void, he actually is able to fling you far enough and hard enough, you are going to be able to land on that platform, kind of as the stairs are starting to disappear. So what does that look like, Void, when you land?
So Void is running over these tops, and then the chain kind of whips out, and without hesitation, she knows what this is. She grabs it as well, and she is flung towards this platform in such a way that instead of having to grasp the edge of it and climb up, she actually lands above it and falls down. I would say almost doing that superhero pose, when you land the knee, and she looks back down at the people, the other programs. What else is on this platform? It's just a plain platform?
So along the back, if you will, opposite of where the stairs kind of led up to, there's a half wall that kind of runs the entire length, and there's these sequential circles of looks like glass essentially, where there's 2 footprint shaped kind of outlines on them. Most of those are dark, but there are 2 of them that are currently lit, and you can see that there are 2 programs that are standing on those platforms kind of locked in place with similar kind of manacles on, and they have green circuitry, which you know to be the typical look that a lot of those who live in Bostrom Colony kind of adopt.
Right. Yeah, I think because I've already gone, the only thing that Void is going to do at this point is she looks back, and there's almost a slight nod to Chemo as she's up there.
Excellent. Okay, so that's 2 PC slots.
So as all this super cool action's going on, Acto just kind of slinks out from under his rock, and he is absolutely finding the most circumspect route to not be noticed on his way. So maybe it even takes extra time, but he is not setting himself out into the open unless he absolutely has to.
All right. So is the intent to try to stay hidden?
Not necessarily stay hidden, but just try not to be out in the middle.
Sure.
Stay out of the direct line of sight of what is going on. He's
Okay.
definitely trying to get there as quickly as possible, but not making any attempts to take a straight line.
Okay, perfect. All right. So that is 3 PC slots. You guys have 1 more before the NPC acts.
I'm not sure if Kaz would be the next person to act at this point, since he's kind of down on the ground. He's not used to being super fighty, so he's kind of get up awkwardly. So if someone else wants to take the turn, if that makes more sense, by all means.
So, a band seeing all this occur in a rather rapid succession would be trying to figure out the most direct, fastest route to get to basically at this point meet up with Void. Now I noticed on the sheet it says that we are equipped with a baton. So are we able to pull out that baton and also break it and create a cycle? Like
Yes. Absolutely.
to try and like ride and as quickly as possible,
Definitely.
like get there point A to B as fast as possible.
Okay, cool. So let's do this. Let's see. What do you have going on? You're a hacker. Okay. It absolutely stands to reason that you would have some kind of probably kick-ass light cycle program inside your baton. So let's get a roll. Let's call it knowledge. And you have the baton. So we'll say that you are, I'm going to say 3 dice in this case.
I got 3 successes.
Ooh, hell yeah. Okay. So you are able to not only get your light cycle out and activated and on it and going, but you also notice that there is a slope to these rocks kind of off to the left, that if you take that, you could possibly make the jump between where that last like rock is and the platform where Void just landed.
Yeah, that's absolutely the path I'm going to take. If
All right.
that's the quickest and most direct path, that's where I'm going.
Cool. And with 3 successes, you are critically going to succeed. So please describe to me what that looks like as a bend pulls off this stunt.
So he's basically just hunched down on this cycle, just given everything that he can into it, maxing its speed out, just full force, hits this ramp, and you see that streak of light just trailing behind, and he sees that he's made the shot, he's lined it up just right, and right as he's making entrance into that bay and about to land on that platform, he's going to grab the parts of the baton and connect them back together and just kind of land in a couple, like a walking, and then take a couple of steps and stop. Like it was all planned. It was beautifully executed. He doesn't have to show that there was any kind of panic. He just, as long as you pull the landing, that's what matters.
And the 2 programs that are kind of manacle at the back of this recognizer, with this 1-2 combination thus far, I mean, they've kind of looked at each other, and you can see they're both wide-eyed and speechless at this point. All right. So this platform continues to rise up. It's going to be very, very difficult for anyone else to get up here easily at this point. Above, you can hear the kind of throaty growl of this Sentry program serving as pilot, as he is moving his hands this way and that, kind of changing the layout of the console in front of him. And as he does so, you can feel a shift in the entire recognizer. This monolithic vehicle kind of lurches, and you hear the rumble of its engines start, as at the base of the feet those white blue lights reappear and things start scattering in all directions from underneath. This thing is starting to take off. Okay, last PC slot. Kaz, that's you.
Okay, so Kaz is kind of awkwardly trying to stand back up while like trying to prop himself back up on his bound hands at this point. He would pretty much know that with his current bindings and whatnot that he can't really get up to the ship at this point, so he would try to disconnect the cuffs on him by using the remaining blade of the staff of the DRES program, and then going to pick up their discarded baton. But otherwise, just kind of watching the ship take off next to Chemo and Actal.
So yeah, we kind of see this shot of the bright light of the recognizer kind of reflected off of your helmet kind of start to kind of pull lower across that black shiny visor. But before that happens, you arm yourself and set yourself free. Okay, so everybody, if you would please, it's time for D6 rolls to enter the next round.
1.
Okay.
3.
3.
5.
3.
2.
2. Okay. I got a 1 this time, which means only one of you managed to be quicker or as quick as the NPC. So there is a single PC slot that gets to go before the NPC does. You may decide who gets to take that.
If everyone doesn't mind, with the current situation and feeling the shift and rise of the recognizer, I feel like a bend would begin trying to figure out a way to route into the programming to halt the recognizer from liftoff and bring it back and ground it before we actually leave the rest of the group behind.
Excellent. Okay, so I think that's probably going to be possibly speed or knowledge. I could see an argument for either, unless there's another that you kind of see an angle with.
I will go with whichever one you want me
Okay.
to go with.
So which would you prefer, knowledge or speed?
I
Which
would
one's better for your character?
I would prefer knowledge.
Knowledge. Perfect. That sounds great. Okay.
So,
And you are doing exactly what you were born to do. You're hacking. So let's get a second die in there. I don't think you're prepared in this situation. I think you are an expert, but I don't think you're prepared. So, 2 dice.
so I rolled 1 above, and I rolled 1 directly on.
Okay, so you'll get a GMP. And
Okay.
your knowledge, what is your knowledge score? You said, oh, you got 1 above your knowledge score?
Yes.
Okay, which is a success. Cool. Okay, so it's going to be a success with a cost. Unless you have a GMP that you want to cash in.
I want to cash it in. I want this thing grounded. That way,
Okay.
that buys us time.
All right, so that's 2 successes. So you do it. You do it well. So you find like a secondary panel. This panel is used for like if the last program has to like basically ride this elevator down to the bottom. So it's not like full access to this thing's controls. You're kind of having to use the limited controls that are here available to you, route it all the way to the main controls of this recognizer and try to take over. And at first, you're just not able to do it, but you kind of find your way in, and then you remember something you were told, one particular trick that you were told. Maybe even it was Actal. You try that, and all of a sudden, from where you are, the lights on this recognizer start to extend out in yellow and overtake the areas that are red-orange until eventually the entire thing glows a bright chartreuse glow. What are you going to do with it, Abend?
With however much time I have with it, I don't think I'm going to necessarily land it. I'm going to hover it in the direction of the rest of the group to try and bridge that gap before bringing it to land. And as I'm trying to like get all this coding in and get everything, just the particulars down, you know, breaking code where I have to and putting in my own, not looking away from the screen, I'm going to say to Void, I am exceptionally tied up at the moment, but I have a feeling that our previous driver is going to be trying to stop this momentarily. If there is any way that you can make your way to him within the very near future, that would be very much appreciated. And I'm just going to keep like frantically typing code as I'm sitting there looking at the screen. I'm just not even breaking. At this point, you don't even know if like I'm not even blinking. Like I'm just.
Excellent. Okay. So indeed, this sentry is going to try to take over once again as pilot. So let's see. Okay. So this program is made to do exactly this function. And this starts becoming very difficult. You find yourself kind of in this unseen battle that's happening between the two of you for control of this thing as part of the lights start to kind of turn red-orange again. And there's like kind of this front line that kind of comes back and forth between the two shades. So I need you to do me a favor and roll your health die 3 times. If you roll a 1 or a 2, it drops in value. So you begin with a D8. Roll it and let me know what you got on the first one.
Sorry, I had to grab a D8.
No, you're good. You're good.
So the first roll was a 4.
Okay, so it's still a D8. Let's roll a second time.
Ooh, next one was a 1.
Okay, so now, for the time being, your health die will be a D6. So now
Okay.
you're going to roll a D6 and let me know.
Okay, so I got a 3 on that one.
Okay, so you took a little bit of strain having to fight against this program as he is attempting to wrestle control back of the recognizer, and he's managed to take over a bit of the recognizer, and you can hear it kind of creaking and groaning under the adverse codes or the adverse instructions that it's being given. So you don't have full control over the recognizer right now. You guys are about half and half, give or take. Okay, the remaining 4 PCs, in whatever order you wish.
Quick question, just clarify. The pilot program
Mm-hmm.
is not on the same platform that we're on.
No,
Correct?
so there's like this platform that raises up basically to kind of the belly of the bridge. There's like a small little elevator on the ends that raises you up into the bridge area.
So can Void see the pilot program?
Yes, the floor beneath the pilot or above you is basically glass. I mean, you can see
Okay.
through it, and there's the colored lines that are running through it in kind of strange geometric shapes and stuff, but you can see through it perfectly fine.
And at this point, how high above us is that?
Currently, it's probably about 20 feet.
If someone else has an idea, they can go first.
I think Axel, as he noticed the colors change on the recognizer, automatically he knows what is likely happening. And I want to run to so it didn't take off, right? It just started to.
There's like maybe a
moved a
foot.
little bit?
Yeah, there's probably like
Okay.
a foot beneath the feet of itself and the ground.
Okay. I want to run to the nearest leg, the one that's closest to me, and just see if I can see any kind of access panel or anything like that that might be within reach, that I might be, or that I could clamber up to. So if there's anything that I might be able to get my hands into.
Okay, so let's see. You're definitely an expert at hacking, so I think 2 dice. But again, this is probably not something that would be typical, so I think just 2 dice in this situation. And let's see. I think
Knowledge or-
yeah, I think knowledge is still applicable.
Oh, that is 1 success on that one.
Okay, so you're going to find the panel that you're looking for, but you're going to basically have to jump onto the tooth, the little angled part that kind of sticks in, and basically kind of ride the foot, if you will, while you're working on it.
Okay. So I realize what I need to do, and if anybody's watching, they see me just kind of hesitate and maybe like false jump a couple of times, and then finally just kind of like fling myself up onto the foot of this recognizer, and I'll try to clamber up to the panel.
Absolutely.
And I made it look way more than a foot.
Yeah, exactly. It looks like it's this huge jump that you're about to make, and then you do it, and maybe you like even overshoot it a little, so you kind of like run into the leg and have to like throw your arms around it. But you kind of steady yourself, and you finally feel like you're flat-footed enough to actually open this panel and hopefully get to work.
Yeah.
Excellent. Next PC slot.
How far from the foot to the platform that was sort of disappearing and going up? What's that distance look like currently?
At this point, it's probably 30 feet to the bottom of that platform.
Uh-huh.
I recognize this look.
Yeah, that look of, well, so... All right. So there's this moment of Chemo sort of stepping back and looking at that, and then it's almost that weird meme with that lady has like all the algorithms and stuff all over her face as she's trying to figure something out. And then you see, like, if we see that, you sort of see them wiped away, and rather than trying to figure it out, Chemo's just going to trust that it can be done. And so I'm going to run and then step onto the foot, and then I'm going to step onto Actel and jump from his shoulders as he's working on this panel up, and then I know I can't get my hands 30 feet in the air, so I'm going to try and hook my chain around part of this platform to be able to give myself an opportunity next turn to climb up onto the platform.
All right. Well, that certainly sounds like Grace to me. but I would absolutely be willing to hear arguments for otherwise.
Hey man, as long as you said grace or flare or instinct, I was okay with
I
it.
could go with Flare as well, definitely.
All right, so I think actually this probably would be a bit more flare. Like if he wasn't like launching himself off of a teammate, it might be grace.
Right.
But so yeah, he drops to this sort of like that runner starting pose, and then starts moving. And for a moment, the little pebbles on the ground move away from his feet in the same way they do when one of the repulsors for these things is turned on. And wow. Okay. So how many dice do I get to roll? Because I don't think this is a purview of anything really. I mean, it depends on the type of monk we're talking about, right?
Well, so you're dealing with a situation where you're trying to jump off of an unknowing partner. So I definitely don't think prepared is going to fit into this.
No.
Expert as a monk, I don't know. I don't think so. I think this is going to be a one die kind of situation.
Yeah. All right. So that's gonna be one success. So
Okay.
you know, with cost, and I think maybe as I hook the chain, the part that sort of slides up into his sleeve, you can see it wrench as it slides further back up his arm than it's supposed to. So rather than being where he wants to be, he's more or less dangling from that arm, rather than gracefully attached to this chain to climb.
Absolutely. And let's go ahead and get a health die roll. I think you're at a D8 still.
I rolled a 7.
Okay, so you're good. Okay, so yeah, Chemo is kind of hanging now, dangling, and I imagine that Actel, you probably turn around to see what in the hell just happened, and all you see are basically like this pair of feet kind of like be lifted up out of your view, looking up to see the green outline of Chemo kind of rising up with this platform.
So I think this Void almost nonchalantly is walking over to where Chemo is dangling and will pull him up.
So Chemo, you're kind of dangling, trying to figure out exactly what just kind of went awry, and you feel yourself kind of accelerate and look up to see Void kind of hand over handing these ones and zeros that form the chain and pull you up and onto the platform.
Welcome aboard.
Perfect. More people to help try and go stop the pilot. Go, please. And I'm still frantically just... At this point, it looks as though my hands are just like smashing the screen. That's how fast I'm like frantically trying to type. It's just a blur.
All right. Next PC slot.
Okay, so I guess it's just Kaz left at this point?
Maybe. I think that might be right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so Kaz isn't much of a climber and can't really hack, and knows that he can't make the jump. So at this point, he's just kind of wondering what he's looking at, kind of arms crossed, and just kind of watching it all happen. Like, what? Because yeah, he doesn't really see a point in trying to get onto one of the legs because he won't be able to climb up using like a baton or anything within a meaningful amount of time. So he's kind of just content to watch it all happen at this point, waiting until a platform can come down because he doesn't really see any other way he can be a help at this point. So he's just kind of a spectator.
Yeah, I think we kind of show this kind of head cocked to the side just a little bit, kind of looking at this situation, and then we cut to like the two programs that are bound in the belly of the recognizer, their heads tilted kind of in a similar fashion with this kind of curious expression on their face, trying to figure out exactly what ballet is kind of playing in front of them. And the assuredness that they had just a moment ago, that they were safe, that they had been rescued, is starting to fade a little. Okay. That should bring us to the end of the round. Everybody, if you would please roll a d6.
2.
2.
Also 2.
2.
1.
1.
I bet you Karen rolled a 6.
You got it. I rolled a 6.
You know how I know? Because I rolled a 6 too, and in my moment of disgust, I looked down at you and I saw your moment of disgust, and I was like, "Yep."
I understand that. Perfect. Okay. I got a 3. So that means there are 3 PC slots before the NPC.
So I think as soon as Axel is able to get this panel open, he kind of just kicks into overdrive because this is finally something that he feels comfortable doing, and his hands are just kind of flying as he's trying to help Aben get control of this recognizer.
Absolutely. And again, I think this is going to be a 2-die situation since you're kind of having to do it through this back door, essentially.
And what did we say it was for?
It could still be knowledge. If that
Knowledge,
works for you.
okay. So yeah, that's a 2.
2 successes.
2 success. Yep.
Excellent. So, again, for those who are watching, which is pretty much just Kaz at this point, you can see the yellow start to kind of turn to a green as blue begins to kind of creep up the leg and kind of join. But instead of there being this harsh barrier between the two shades, these two colors kind of blend together until they mix into almost an equal part. And now this green is pushing back against this orange-red that was attempting to retake the power from this recognizer. And it is now starting to edge backwards, losing ground. All right, that's 1 PC slot.
Having sort of climbed or been pulled up onto the platform, I think you see Chemo's shoulder look almost dislocated from the way it was hanging. And so he grabs it and slams upward, and there's this sickening sort of crunch as it re-sockets. And he looks at Void. Well, go on. He asks someone to stop the pilot.
Get me up there and I will.
Before we head on, I forgot to have Axel take a move with the recognizer, if you wished, to make it do something.
Oh, okay. So you mean like getting the recognizer, trying to get the recognizer to move, or
yeah,
just
absolutely, yeah. So
yeah, I would absolutely try and
for this round,
okay.
Basically.
Yeah, I would absolutely try and get it to land. I want it on the ground,
Perfect.
And if I can still do that, I want to try and get the platform, the stairs down.
Okay.
I don't know if that's too much or not. But.
No, again, you're only like a foot or two off of the ground at this point, so it kind of like everybody inside is kind of moved back and forth as this thing kind of comes to rest on the ground again, and you're able to start lowering that platform back down. It makes it down probably about halfway, so it's about 15 feet off the ground at this point, give or take.
So this is the platform that Void and Chemo need to be up so they can get to the pilot.
So you guys are
and so I'm like, go ahead and go. So after resocketing his shoulder, I think Chemo turns and he holds his hands in front of him, that sort of like boosting way when Void says, get me up there. And yeah, I'm going to wait for Void to approach. I'm going to attempt to fling her this now 15 feet to the platform above us.
Yeah, I think it's like what now? Because it was 20 before, right? So now it's even more.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah, so-
becoming more. You guys
Right,
are
so
kind
it's
of
like-
acting at the same time, more or less.
It's like 30-ish feet right this second, 25-ish feet. Right, so I think we see that the platform is moving in normal time, and now Void and Kimo are moving in that sort of bullet, like slow motion thing.
I hope you have your Air Jordans on.
Just
All right, let's do this.
all right.
Let's do it.
Oh man.
Let's see. So this is probably force from Kimo.
Probably.
Kind of using strength in this regard. Void, I would say, possibly Grace. You know, I could still see an argument for Flare. This is a pretty flashy thing to do. So if you want to use Grace or Flare instead of
Maybe
I
you
would
should throw
prefer
me.
Grace.
Maybe
Grace
you
is-
should throw me up, and I'll use Flare to land. All right, let's do this.
No, it's my foot in your hand.
And how many dice?
Let's see. This is some kind of crazy jumping around stuff for Void. So that's kind of what the security programs do in this setting. So I would definitely think that you could have a second dice. Chemo. Monks help people. That's what they do. So I think you can qualify for a second die.
Okay.
I don't think either one of you is prepared. This doesn't seem like a move that you guys have done before.
No.
Nah.
So I got 1 success and 1 fail.
Well, it's a good thing for you. All right, so if force, you want to roll under your number, right?
Correct.
It's a rise. Good, because I rolled 2 1s.
Ooh.
And my force is a 2.
Well,
So-
exactly. So show me, or tell me what it looks like in an uncharacteristic show of strength and force. Chemo pulls this off.
Right. So I think there's that sort of, hunkered down motion, and then instead of like that, like preparatory, he just counts Void's steps in this like 12, 13, 14, and then launches up, and it's more a math problem than straight force. And I still think that he finds himself staggering forward a bit unbalanced at the end of it, because it's not, he wasn't expecting that to work.
Imagine you kind of stumble towards where the opening is, where this staircase kind of appears usually, and you kind of hit that edge where that opening is, and you're kind of like flailing your arms, and I think maybe the only thing that kind of saves you is the fact that a bend is there and can kind of like reach for just a second, like off of the keyboard, grab a hold of like a part of your maybe even like your identity disc, like on the back of your suit, and kind of like pull you upright.
Not that way, Chemo. Not that way.
Thank you.
All right, so that puts Void up onto the deck, the bridge above, and I think, let's see, how many PC slots was that? Was that 2?
I think that was 3 used because Actel did the movement. He hacked in and did the movement.
Right. And then Chemo went.
And then
right?
was.
Yeah, it's 3 if
Oh,
you
yeah.
count Void's movement. But
But I don't. Okay,
No.
she hasn't done
Yeah.
her stuff
Right.
yet.
In this situation, Chemo basically gave his turn to helping Void succeed to get past kind of that first thing. So if Void, if you wanted to take this third PC slot before the NPC goes, you may. Or anybody that hasn't gone can.
yeah, I would love to, at this point, beeline towards the. Well, I shouldn't say beeline. I'm going to approach the pilot program and try to decommission him in the way that I am known. So, yeah, I think as she's kind of walking towards him, as he's probably fighting, hacking himself, like trying to get control, she is just going to take that big, long scythe that she carries and swing it at him.
Okay, so that sounds pretty forceful to me. I don't imagine a scythe to be a particularly graceful weapon.
Depends on how you swing it, I guess.
I suppose so.
I just don't imagine death being dainty.
Hey,
Well, yeah.
You never know. Okay, so let's see. You are a security program, so I definitely think
I
a
am.
second die. And I mean, he's distracted, and yeah, I think this is probably a 3 dice kind of situation.
Perfect. Yeah, that's not so perfect because I rolled 3 numbers above my number. So, I'd like to use the GMP point that I got to at least make 1 success.
All right. So you succeed at a cost. Oh, okay. Hang on, let's see what happens here. Okay. So describe to me what it looks like as you successfully de-res this program. But you also damage the controls.
Yeah, so I imagine like with this, she almost wasn't expecting that launch to work either. And so when she landed, she was a little bit off balance. And as her boots kind of skid across that glass surface before she kind of starts to saunter, and she pulls out, pulls aside and tries to swing it towards this creature. She's just not fully balanced yet. And while she does manage to slice through and de-res the program, her swing continues and catches the edge of that console, erupting in some beautiful sparks.
Absolutely. And this security program, again, kind of falls from the top down, kind of cascading in these orange cubes. And as those cubes fall away, you realize that your scythe is kind of embedded in the control panel of this recognizer. And there are sparks. And now you can also see these very right-angled, kind of jagged, glowing lines that spider back out away from this thing, revealing kind of the cubical construction of this panel that's hidden underneath its kind of slick veneer. The rest of you feel the recognizer shimmer, and it goes dark. We are out of initiative. You are free form.
That was not me. I'm going to be looking around very cautiously.
I will jump off of the foot and head over to the platform, the stairs. I want to head up to the control room.
Okay, so you can get back onto the platform, but this thing has powered itself down. So you guys are going to have to basically power it back on, figure out what's kind of causing it, to be able to raise that platform back up again.
Are there any kind of controls or any other panels at all on the platform?
Yes, the one that Abend is working on currently is actually kind of open and accessible.
I I guess I'll just try to assist him then with this panel to see what we can figure out.
Okay, absolutely. And getting it brought back online won't take much. The two of you working together, especially, you do have to kind of figure out that, oh, well, it's there happens to be a weapon sticking out of the control panel upstairs that seems to be causing some kind of disruption in this thing's code being copacetic. So once you kind of realize that, you're able to bring this thing back online and repair the damaged console, at least temporarily. Okay. So you have 3 derezzed Century security programs. You have these 2 Bostermites that are in the hole, and a repaired recognizer. What's the plan?
I feel like we should lower the platform so Kaz can finally make his entrance onto the recognizer. It probably hasn't looked like a whole lot's gone on from a distance. So he might be slightly confused as to why he saw it like hover for about 5 minutes and then just land and go dark. Like the most uninspiring situation, even though she saw, Void and Chemo like leaping and hero jumps and, cycles like jumping over caverns, and just to see it like rise for 5 minutes about a foot off the ground and then just go right back down. So I feel like we should lower the platform and explain what had happened during that time.
And then if the platform does have enough function to be lowered again, then Kaz would just kind of nonchalantly stroll on board and kind of be acting like what I miss, because his views obscured because all the platforms or whatnot would block a direct line of sight as to everything that happened. But just kind of be there like, okay, we've got the recognizer, and wouldn't really be aware of the situation as far as any injuries, who's on it, and just kind of be taking everything in at this point.
Anything else you guys are doing before taking this thing for a spin?
I want to check through the control panel to see, because we need to figure out a way to disguise ourselves too. So I want to see if there's any way to affect our appearance, if we can use this recognizer program to do that at all.
So you know that the 3 downed sentries, that their discs would allow you to do that, at least temporarily, but that's only going to give you 3.
Okay, I will just quick, scuttle out into back onto the ground to pick up the 2 discs for the sentries that were on the ground there, and I'll head back with them.
I'm trying to remove my weapon from the console without doing any more damage.
You're able to do so. It slid into it fairly easily, and it just kind of backs right out. There's a few more sparks, but you're absolutely able to do so. And the 3rd disc from the pilot is on the ground as well. So
yeah, I'll pick that up as I'm there.
Okay. So which of the 3 of you are getting a makeover, and what are the other 2 of you doing?
I feel as though a couple of us should probably get the makeover to something a little more convincing as to what would be on a recognizer. And then maybe one or two of us act as captive programs alongside the two that are already actually captive that we still haven't addressed yet. But
do we want to release the two that are captives before we leave?
well, let's not
Or-
get hasty. We don't even
like-
know why they were captive.
Like, hey, come on! Like, you can let us go. That's fine.
I mean, we don't even know what they were taken in for. Like, that's
Doesn't matter.
I just
that's a very good point.
feel like they'll just be in the way. Right?
So if they were captured, would their batons be somewhere on board?
These are boss termites, so yeah, I think they would at least have a baton, probably one apiece.
Okay, so I would think that we just give them back their batons and let them be on their way.
It works for us.
As they're getting ready to leave, Ben just kind of looks at them and goes, "You saw nothing."
Hey, whatever you're doing, keep it up. They kind of break the batons open, form light cycles, and both blaze off in green trails out into the deeper outlands.
And are the injuries sustained to was it Chemo and Abend? Are they obvious, or have they told Kaz about their injuries at all? Because at this point, Kaz didn't see the injuries really happen.
I
He
think,
is more to his pride.
right, yeah, I was going to say, I think Abend is the only one who actually took damage, so to speak. And yeah, I don't know how obvious it would be, because it was definitely kind of a strain situation, but I'll let Seth kind of handle what that looks like.
I mean, it wouldn't be something that would be like obviously obvious in the way of like a physical like showing. It's more of his mannerisms and how he's holding himself have kind of shifted. He beforehand he was very, straight in posture. He was very, solid footing. And now he's kind of has this kind of almost like a slight hunch to him. His footing's a little staggered, not necessarily like as solid and sure-footed as he was previously. He just kind of has a shift to him that would be noticeable if it were being looked for.
Okay. I'd like to think that because of Kaz's experience in medical repairs, that he would be able to tell the change in his coding and would be offering to take your identity disk to do some repairs.
A bend would hand it over. I would trust Kaz to be able to do that for me. So,
All right, Kaz, we're gonna do this as knowledge. Unless you could think of a different possibility.
I'm fine with knowledge.
Perfect.
How many dice do you want me to?
Well, again, I think this is exactly what you were designed for. So 3 dice.
Okay. Okay, so I have 2 successes and I rolled my number.
Okay, so go ahead and record that you have that GMP, and 2 successes means you do it, and you do it well. So, let's see, Abend, if you would, roll your current health die. Instead of a 1 or a 2, if you get a 5 or a 6, it'll go up.
I rolled a 4.
Okay, that was for the first roll, but she got 2 successes, so go ahead and roll a second time.
Ooh. All right, that one's a 5.
Okay, so your health die is back to a D8.
Woo. All right, so yeah, Abend would take his disc back and place it, and as soon as it would place, like the shift in posture and everything would almost be like an instant, like you wouldn't even necessarily see it happen. It'd just be like a jagged, like straight posture, sure footing. He's right back to where he was, and he would just thank you.
Yeah, Kaz is more than happy. Seems like it wasn't really a big deal for him at all. He carried out the task with a pretty cool confidence. He seems to have done a lot of repairs for regular programs, almost as if doing the repair almost made him bored.
Excellent. Okay. So, which 3 of you are taking on the appearance of sentries? Not everybody at once.
Well, I will if.
Okay.
Yeah,
One goes to Void.
Yeah, grabbing that pilot's one. I guess maybe that's.
I kind of look around, and I mean, I'm real twitchy. I'm, you know, I don't think we want it to be me.
Perhaps it should be Kaz and Abend then. That seems to cover our bases. One of us who's good at manipulating the system in each role, just in case.
Does that work for you, Kaz and Abend?
Yeah, I would have no issue with it. Are we going with the idea that you guys are captive programs? Like you've been.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Because if that's the case, I was wanting to see if there was any way that, since we have those flight shackles, I was going to see if there was any way that I could get into the programming of those to kind of give them a fault. That way, if anything were to happen, having these on the rest of the group, they could break it through that fault.
Yeah, that's badass. I like that. We'll say, I mean, you know, this kind of thing is probably not super difficult, and right now you guys aren't pressed for time and focus, so it's absolutely something that you can set up. Actal and Chemo, even though you will have these binders, if you will, on you, essentially you'll be able to deactivate them kind of in a moment's notice. Cool. All right. So is the plan then to next head to the facility? Cool. So you assume your positions, you assume your disguises. The recognizer goes from the yellow, the blue, the mixed into a green. It turns back into the red-orange to complete the ruse as this recognizer kind of rumbles back towards TRON City. And this is where we're going to take our break. So, 5 to 10 minutes, go to the bathroom, refill your drinks, kiss your spouse, smoke them if you got them, etc., etc. Thank you very, very much for anybody who may be watching this evening along with us, or if you happen to be watching in the future, I thank you as well. Thank you very much to these 5 players. I'm having such a great time with the descriptions and how everything is going so far already in this game, and I cannot wait to get to the second part. So, stick around. We will be right back.
Don't turn off your camera.
Don't turn off your camera. Okay, we are back from the break. Thank you very much for sticking with us tonight, this evening, for TRON Noncompliance. Hopefully everybody's having a good time so far. I know I'm having a blast. Like I said, I love this setting. I'm particularly fond of the system, if I do say so myself. So I'm really anxious to get back in and see what's going to happen in the second half. I might know. Shh. Okay. We rejoin the 5 of you as you rocket across the skies in this recognizer, stolen, in the guise, some of you, of sentries. Others of you bound with faulty manacles under the guise of being prisoners. You approach the edge of TRON City, and spread out before you, the gleaming edges of the city grow to the point where you can no longer see around them anymore. They extend as far as you can see, and there on the edge, you can see the beginnings of a building. The lines running here and there, some of which have not even finished solidifying yet. The ends of them just kind of disappearing into free-floating pixels. There are programs kind of milling around here and there. And you can see that though this building is not near being finished yet, the pace at which they are moving is wild. It's borderline frantic. So as you are approaching this facility, what's the vibe inside the cockpit and the platform of this recognizer? What's going on? How are you preparing for the next moments?
I will be spending some time in the trying to get into the system to this recognizer to see if I can find any kind of layout or maps that have any connection to this building we're trying to get into and the area we're trying to access.
Okay, yeah. Let's see. Okay, so I think that this would be difficult to do from here, but it's certainly possible, especially for someone with your skill set. So I'm going to say that you have 2 dice, but because of the difficulty in this situation, I'm going to take one of them back away. So it'll just be a single die roll. Again, I think knowledge works really well, unless you have another suggestion.
No, I think knowledge would make sense. So
Perfect. Okay.
And I'm going to use my GMP to make that a success.
Okay, excellent. So there is a success, but it will have a cost. Let's see. Okay, so you are able to upload or download kind of the schematics of what exists of this building so far. And you manage to basically get it onto your disk, so then you can kind of bring it up, almost heads-up display style, kind of laid over what you're actually seeing through your visor. But doing so trips some kind of security measure, and your recognizer has now been locked out of the rest of the system. So it's kind of isolated as of now.
Well, I got us a map, but I think I might have broken it. The thing. Sorry.
Show me the map.
I will. I'll share the map with everybody.
Yeah, I almost see it's like you guys bring your discs kind of up next to one another and almost kind of make that hand passing like swipe, and it kind of makes the data exchange between the two.
I think Boyd would be looking at this map, looking for where we want to go, using her knowledge of actually having been a security program at one point for, but it's effectively the other side, using that knowledge to kind of locate where we want to get to put in this malware disk.
Okay. So kind of searching through the schematics, trying to identify what's what. Let's go ahead and roll. You already got the information. You are a security program. So I think probably 2 dice in this situation.
Okay. And using knowledge?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah.
That makes good sense.
So that's 1 success and 1 fail.
Okay. Okay, so you locate the main terminal that you have to reach. However, you realize that it's in the basement. It's several flights down below the surface. So it's not going to be extremely easy to get to.
We need to get to a place as low as you can go in this building. We'll have to take it from there.
And I assume it's a bin that's flying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to ask, once he got a hold of the blueprint of this building and it basically cut off us from the rest of, would we have noticed that? And at that point, do I notice anything else outside that is kind of worrying, in that kind of sense of they know something's up and now they're directing attention towards us kind of situation?
So you would absolutely be able to tell that basically there was a connection lost kind of thing. Nothing seems to really happen to the, to the recognizer itself. It seems fine. You just kind of have lost the connection to the grid, at least for momentarily. And looking around, you can kind of see that this has a pretty heavy presence of security as it is. There's a few blackguards that seem to already be wandering around, and you can see a couple of things patrolling the outsides. One kind of outside the perimeter of the building, and one kind of patrolling that open courtyard in the area. There are 2 light tanks here. They kind of seem like they've kind of stopped and are starting to maybe kind of turn their turrets in your direction.
All right. Noticing that, is there any way that I could possibly try and reconnect us to the grid? Is there any way that I could override that cutoff from here?
I think it's possible. You would probably have to stop landing. You probably have to like come to a hover, so you can kind of split your attention, or you could attempt to do both, and you just have a slightly harder time of accomplishing it.
I mean, I don't want to just flat out begin to hover, because I think that would almost certainly give the the appearance of something going on, that we're starting to do, like bring in a landing and then we just stop, and then all of a sudden we connect and then we keep going down. I think that would cause more concern than us just trying to attempt the landing while I also reconnect. And if anything were to happen from there, we could just blame it on like a bug in the system that got worked out very, very quickly.
Okay, it works for me. So, let's see. Maybe a speed, or I could even see an argument for control. Honestly, because you're kind of having to concentrate on two different tasks at once. What do you think? You're muted. You're muted. There you go.
I would rather do speed,
Okay.
as
Sure.
as previously mentioned before. So how many?
So you're a hacker, but again, this is hard. I think it's going to be a single die.
All right, so I just barely made it.
Okay.
Like it's like as close as I could get. I didn't land my number, but
you did succeed.
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Good. So, I think you are able to reconnect kind of into the grid and get communications kind of flowing back between the grid itself and the recognizer. And as you're doing so, you're kind of bringing this thing in, and you've found a spot to land, and you're lowering it down. But just before you get to it, there's a piece that's kind of being raised up by this crane that your divided attention just didn't catch. And as you're coming in, one of the legs of the recognizer kind of hits that bundle of pipes, and it kind of causes them to like start to swing and kind of spin.
Well, noticing that, I would immediately try and correct to try and avoid doing any more potential harm to that crane, or to avoid actually causing those pipes to fall. But I would try and do it in a very controlled manner. I don't want to just like cause the ship to like jerk very violently away. I want it to be a very calculated, slow drift away, as to not like cause a stink. Fake
For
it
sure.
until you make it, so to speak.
Exactly. So you've hit these pipes, and there's this kind of like kind of noise as you scrape past them, and they kind of swing back and forth for just a moment, about the rest of the time that it takes you to kind of actually touch down with the feet of the recognizer onto the floor. And as these kind of slowly kind of swing back to an idle state, several of these blackguard kind of start making their way in formation to where you've landed. And you can see, some of you may have had some experience with these before. These are blackguard defenders. They carry their discs kind of on the outside of one arm, and can quickly deploy it into a fairly sizable shield of energy that they're able to hide behind. And they have these kind of half baton, almost a truncheon or like a short bladed sword that comes out of the batons that they wield. As of now, they have their shields out and kind of set in front of them in a formation, but no weapons drawn just yet. And they advance towards the bottom of the stairs of the recognizer. who is going to greet them?
So I think as our stairs descend, Chemo tosses himself down the stairs, like bling bling, head over, ass over tea kettle, as it were, and just sprawls on the floor at their feet, like as though one of the security guards had thrown me down or dropped me down the stairs.
I think Void would follow your body out, as if she had been the one that had thrown you. Of course, she looks like a sentry program, but she would stomp down the stairs after your tumbling body.
The Blackguard defenders kind of watch as Chemo kind of spills down onto the kind of shiny surface of the ground beneath them. And you can see kind of mirrored versions of them as their heads kind of turn towards one another and look down at Chemo. What's going on?
We have a feisty one.
Why have you brought him here?
You'll never stop us. I'll never tell you what I know. His death is imminent. He'll be derezzed. And I'll never tell you how.
The two in the front kind of step forward, and the two behind them kind of step to like a flanking position on the outside. And in unison, the four of them reach to their hips, grab their batons, and extend with kind of this electric...
More will come. They know I'm here. The plan's already in action.
One of them takes a step towards you, Chemo, kind of looks at you closely through this blackened visor, and says, "You won't last long in the games."
Scan my program. I've killed your kind before.
You hear that same telltale kind of scanning purr noise. Collect him. Two that had moved into flanking positions deactivate their batons and step forward to seize you, Chemo.
And there's like 1 billion security down here, right? Not just these this small group.
No. So there's the four that are kind of immediately in your area, and you can see maybe another half a dozen kind of scattered around the entire complex. Some of them, it would take some time for them to even get to you. But there is also a light tank that is in the courtyard with you.
Right. Well, they're not going to use a light tank on me. So as one of them approaches me to sort of lend credence to this, I'm going to attempt to sort of spin kick around and drive one of their ignited stabs through the guy approaching me.
All right. That absolutely sounds like Grace. Let's see. This sounds pretty monkish to me. So I would say a second die. Again, prepared. I just don't know. Using somebody else's weapon to stab them sounds like a little bit of a tricky maneuver.
Right. Plus, I wasn't actually planning on doing this.
Well, there you go. Perfect.
So two successes.
Right. There you go. Okay. So this guy has one of these things. You got 2 successes. Let's see. Oh, okay. Okay. So you kick his blade into him. It hits his shield and kind of skips downward. And as it does so, it cuts his thigh right across the top of his knee. And you see immediately like those orange cubes start to kind of pour out of his leg, and it leaves this jagged crag of a wound kind of through the majority of his leg. He is wounded, but he is not dead. Okay. So, let's roll d6s.
Yeah.
Or
4.
Also a 4.
2 4s. Okay.
2.
A 2. Okay.
6.
6.
Also a 2.
2 2s. Okay. I also got a 2. So that is 2 PC slots before the NPCs are going to react. And then 3 PC slots after. Who wants them? Going hot.
Well, I guess I'm gonna continue that movement. So as like the blade bites into his leg and cuts through it, I'm going to loop my leg around his waist and the other one up towards his head to sort of almost like climb his back to kick him back down. Yeah.
Sounds like some more grace to me. And again, I think a second die in this situation, it sounds very monk-like to me.
Wow, good. But it's 2 successes.
Okay. So he failed his first, so he's on to a d4 now. Okay, and then the second. Oh, okay. So what does it look like as you derez this Blackguard defender?
So I think I loop my leg around his waist and then fling like my right leg up and sort of axe kick to his head. And as I do it, my fingers brush his staff, and so the other end also electrifies, and so his head is just sort of driven down, very similar to a gentleman we saw earlier, as his own staff is driven up through his face. And before he dereses, you can see like those little orange drops, just the cubes just sort of fall out for a moment before he just liquefies into these cubes that spread everywhere.
Absolutely.
Put that in your games.
That was 1 PC slot. Who's going to be the second? Or I can go.
I think, yeah, we're going to have to sell this. So Void is going to backhand Chemo. It'll make it look like it, hard, but hopefully Chemo will play along and kind of exaggerate the move. And she's going to step in front, like when she's backhanded him, she's going to grab him and say, "I've got this one." I was told to take him directly myself. You see what he can do.
Okay, Chemo. Are you accepting this backhand?
So I think in order to sell it, Chemo rolls towards her like he's going to kick her as well, and then just allows her to sort of that backhand to connect almost like mid-throat as he's coming in. And so there's this horrible gag sound as that happens, and he just it's that brick stop, right? Just like a comic, and just splats to the ground.
All right. Please roll your health die for me.
I rolled a 3.
Okay. So, though it knocked the wind
I came
out of you,
really close to crushing my windpipe,
and hurt like hell, you managed to slough off the worst of it. But you go down as if it were a much more serious hit. The other Blackguard have turned to face Chemo and taken like a half step. Once again, their hands kind of reaching for these glowing weapons. Void, you step forward and put on this show. I'm gonna get a charm roll from you.
Charm?
Yeah. let's see. You can have an extra die for the display of knocking your compatriot on his ass. And
Can we sell intimidate instead of charm?
Oh, I was gonna try and sell intimidate as well with the
Okay.
performance that just went on, along with the I'll take him. I was told.
okay. Yeah. Let's do that then. I think 2 dice. And along with your description, if you would, I would like you to add something about how you're actually becoming imposing towards these security programs.
Okay. So that's 2 successes. So not only does she, as she steps and kind of wallops Chemo, she turns with purpose to these guys as she's saying, he is mine, I'm taking him in. And she's literally dragging Chemo almost by like the collar, not even letting him stand up, just pulling him along. And she is not backing down from, like, almost like they're blackguards, but there is no hesitation that she knows what she's doing and that this is her purpose. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it definitely looks like they're going to step in your way, kind of blocking your path. But you kind of do that thing where you kind of come to a stop in front of them and kind of just give them a stone cold stare. And there's like that tense moment, and then they both kind of step back and part and let you pass. The rest of you,
And
what are you doing?
I imagine that Axel was, I guess, so I was just hanging back waiting for either Kaz or Aben to lead me out. But I'm just kind of like cowering and trying to look as scared as possible. It's not really a stretch for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I imagine one of them probably brought you out alongside Chemo, and the stuff that happened with Chemo kind of broke away from where you guys were initially standing. But this all kind of played out like maybe 10 feet away from you.
Okay. And I'm just like, I've got my hands up. I'm going.
Abend, Kaz?
Yeah, I think Kaz would probably take the role of being Actel's escort off of the recognizer, and would just be trying to play that role to the Blackguards. And he would probably also mention to the Blackguards that evidently the recognizer has undergone some damage and is no longer flyable, and is in need of repair, to kind of give Abend a out to not just go pilot off the ship and try and convince them based on the sketch landing that the recognizer shouldn't be flown.
Yeah, excellent. Let's see. You know what? That's fine. That's actually a brilliant cover-up. I think that they would, with everything the way that it played out, I think that they would buy that pretty easily. One of them says, it explains the strange behavior. He must have been a handful.
And Kaz would try to be as non-social as possible, since these guards tend to be very stone-faced and not really, chat each other up casually. So there wouldn't really be a response from Kaz in that, as he's trying his best to fulfill the role of sentry program.
Absolutely. And what has it been doing?
A bend seeing Kaz basically take on the guard of Actal and hearing his description of what's gone down with um, with the whole situation at hand, and seeing Void and Chemo play out this role. He's basically going to jump right into it and keep with this. Hearing the other uh, guards say, he must have been a real handful, while still not trying to have any kind of actual like conversation, just more so presenting this information. A Bend would, in a very just matter of fact, very short manner, be like, the primary amount of damage was received at the um, at the in the hangar, with the main controls taking the brunt of the damage. That's where you'll want to have somebody go and take repairs. And that's basically all he's going to say. He's not going to give any more, any less. Just where the damage is, that's where it needs to be done. And he's not even really going to be looking at them. He's just going to be keeping an eye on Actal, as Kaz kind of has him in place already.
So the 3 remaining Blackguard defenders turn as a unit and walk to where there's a small group of programs who have kind of grown idle nearby, watching all of this unfold. And they begin kind of issuing orders and pulling them away from construction and putting them on getting this recognizer repaired and out of here as soon as possible. The 5 of you are free to move deeper into the facility. All right. So as you guys make your way towards the main terminal that's located several floors down below you, you're passing through sections of this building that are still being constructed. And again, you can see these kind of ghost phantom lines running every which way in certain sections of this building, but they kind of just taper out into nothingness. You can see that they are being built cube by cube, pixel by pixel. And there's even sections where something will start and then it will kind of materialize behind these kind of phantom lines, and then it will stop. And everything will kind of become the ghostly cyan color and will retreat until that structure is gone. And something else will start to grow in a different fashion, taking its place. There's a cognizance at work here. And you can see this structure being built and created in this moment. If you would, each of you, please, describe something that you see in this growing facility, a feature that you come across as you're making your way down into the bowels of it.
So I think as we're descending and we make a couple of turns, there is a oddly illuminated hallway. It's got this clinically white light glowing from both sides of the walls that, as we approach them, appear to be one-way glass. You can see through them but not out. And inside are these arms, these robotic 2-pronged arms that are pulling apart recognizable programs. You can watch as they're colors are stripped from them and they become this hollow white on white. And then these other cubes, these slick black metallic looking cubes, are then jammed into places inside of them. And as this happens, you can see the security force uniform start to embed itself and crawl over top of their circuitry and their flesh as they're remapping these once freed programs into servants of the security force.
Anybody else?
I think Axel just notices he's just able to see he's able to see coding behind, especially where there's construction going on, where there's new stuff going up. He's able to see the code behind it, and he also just kind of sees where it's this. It's something about it doesn't look right. It's like a reuse, a repurpose of things that have existed. He recognizes, programs from things like the business world, accounting. Actel comes from. He's actually a repurposed insurance algorithm, and he recognizes that coding and how it's just been modified slightly to in bastardized ways that are just meant. You can tell that Clue is taking everything he can get his hands on and repurposing it for something, but he can't quite see what that purpose is. But it's definitely altering that original purpose that was behind this coding that's being reused.
That is super badass, man. It sounds completely on point with the setting. I love it.
I think Kaz would probably notice coding templates for identity disks, and would probably notice the extreme simplicity of the coding in the disks. Kaz has seen a huge variety of different identity disks from a huge variety of programs, and he's never seen such a restricted program set before, that it kind of gives him an uneasy feeling of he can't even really put his finger on it, but it's a feeling of being restricted, and losing something really important that makes him who he is. So he kind of doesn't really know how to react to the template, but it seems to be that this template has been set up as the set, probably near where the programs are being stripped and being modified. This template would be very close to that, and at a separate disk manufacturing or modifying station. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think it's almost like looking at the makings of a zombie in our mind. Something like this is taking away free will. This is even taking away the desire for free will, kind of thing, and is turning these things into little more than robots. And I think it's probably these programs. Some of them are being turned to security programs, but also a lot of them are being turned into the labor programs that are working on building this facility so fast. That's awesome.
And going along with that, and kind of building off of what Actel and Kaz have already presented. I feel as though as we are making our way further into this building and deeper down into this building, we're having to kind of take our time through this process, because as we are trying to turn down certain hallways or make our way down stairwells, they're literally shifting before our eyes in very rapid succession, and we have to kind of take a slow pause to see what's actually going to materialize and what route we can take. And seeing this and seeing all this very rapid coding and seeing how basic and not necessarily well planned out, seeing this very rapid succession, we could also kind of see, and Abin takes notice of these labor programs that are just scattered throughout this building, trying to maintain these tasks, trying to keep up with the ever-changing programming. But however, there are times where the programming actually directly cuts off these labor programs, and there's these moments where the program no longer has the direction that it was intended for, and you see it almost kind of short out, and it stands there for a moment and goes idle, and almost kind of like a panic, like this unknowing panic. It's just kind of frozen, and then you just see it kind of shut down. And whenever you see one of these, you see one of these like black guards kind of take it and take it back to be reprogrammed to have the bugging kind of fixed out. But it's already, there's so many of them that's already been created that this one tiny labor program is not going to get in the way or interfere with the progress that's going to be made. They're just going to take it and repurpose it yet again. So we're constantly seeing these idle programs that are kind of twitchy and buggy and just kind of standing in these corners and halls, just kind of like bugging out.
Absolutely. Almost like ants, like even in death, like they're fed back into the colony, kind of thing, and just repurposed, no waste. Yeah.
I almost need to take it even further, as not only like the corridors and walls are somewhat shifting as they're quickly being made, that sometimes these laborers are actually caught in a new wall and are like almost derezzed instantly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So there's, little parts that are kind of maybe even still somewhat cubical and stuff on their edges from where like parts of these programs have been derezzed in the wall, and like a completed section of wall or floor or something that has one of these blemishes in it kind of slowly fills in and corrects the mistake, much slower than the rest of the progress and pace is kind of going on all around you. Those are all awesome. Thank you guys very much for doing that. Everybody please take a GMP. You make your way down into the depths of this structure, this facility. And you enter a kind of large open space that has these big sweeping arches, sleek lines everywhere. All of the lines seem to come to a singular point in the room. This small pedestal that is glowing with the same cyan, blue, white light that is extending out on all of these axes. At this spoke, at this epicenter, there is a program who is standing with their disc kind of held aloft inside this pedestal, the beam coming out of the top of this pedestal. She is dressed in the same form-fitting, sleek black dress that all of you typically wear. Hers is lined with a kind of an cobalt blue glowing color. And her dark hair is kind of short on the back, but comes to these very, very long angles in the front. She is hovering a few inches above the floor as she's working. And as she's got her hands in front of her, working almost the way, not quite a conductor, but almost like a painter or a puppeteer would like move their hands kind of wildly in these large sweeps through the air. And as she does so, occasionally a bright pulse comes out away from her station and kind of goes along one of these light lines up and into the structure elsewhere. She turns as you enter the room, her eyes glowing the same color as her circuitry. She looks at you all for a moment and she says, "This is unusual. Why have you come here? We're far too busy for this." "Come, speak. I have no time."
I think this Void would almost like throw Chemo into the room, like push him into the room. "Brought you this." And she would quickly follow in after Chemo.
"I am the architect program. What am I to do with this?"
"I was told you would be interested in him."
She kind of turns her head slightly to the side, curious, but the expression on her face doesn't change. She pulls one of her hands away from its task and holds it in front of her, extends a single finger out in Chemo's direction, and then turns her palm face up. And as she does so, the ground beneath her feet changes into a set of stairs that she then descends down to Chemo. "Well, program, are you interesting?"
So I think Chemo looks up at her, and there is this cool, seething rage from seeing the things that we saw on our way here. The program's being de-resed inside of walls and people being reprogrammed into laborers. And so where his eyes would normally be, there's just that green color of his circuitry. "I'm going to kill you."
That's interesting.
"I'm going to end you and everything you're about."
I see. Another idealist. Was your home here? Is that why you're upset? Or perhaps you knew some of the programs who have been given a higher purpose. Or perhaps you simply failed at your own purpose. And this was the best that you could do.
I think with that, like, Chemo's head slumps down for a moment. His hands sort of splayed out in front of him. The glowing manacles, he pulls them back up towards his chest, and there's this heaving of shoulders. or perhaps this is my purpose. And I'm going to pull the half disc out from inside of my jacket. And as I stand up, I'm going to drive it up into her face.
Okay. So that sounds like speed. Possibly subtlety. What you thinking?
I think speed. I think that she's too smart of a program to not know something's coming. So this has to be faster than she can react.
Perfect. Okay.
So.
Let's see. I don't know. She certainly wasn't expecting the false manacles and for you to just outright attack, I don't think. So I think you have an element of surprise on your side. So I think two dice rather. 2 discs.
Okay. 2 discs. All right, we're gonna go speed here. Good thing. All right, so that is 1 success. That is 2 successes, and I'm gonna spend my GMP to make it 3 successes.
Ooh, okay. So you lunge upward with this this viral disc. Let's see. She is one of these. And manage to... Ooh. You managed to make contact with her. And... Oh, wow. So she started as a D8. And this hit completely caught her off guard. She now has this gouge that kind of starts underneath her chin and comes up all the way up her left cheek, almost to the corner of her eye. And at her jawline is probably almost 2 inches wide. The whole thing filled with these kind of cobalt-edged cubes. As she recoils from this strike, some of these cubes flying out away from her and clattering across the sleek floor in this room. All of you, please roll a d6.
Five.
Okay.
Also 5.
Okay, 2 5s, a 2.
Also 5.
3 5s and a 2.
A 2.
2. Hey, it's a full house. Okay, so that's 2 successes because I got a 3. So 2 PC slots, and then the baddies, and then 2 PC slots afterwards. Or I'm sorry, 3 PC slots afterwards. So who's going to have those first 2?
And just a quick clarification. So the pillar at the center of the room where she was working, that's what we're looking for. Is that safe to assume? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, the disc that is in Chemo's hands currently, it's got to get there. Anybody?
How far away is the architect from the rest of the group?
Probably 20 feet, maybe.
Okay.
I think while she's distracted from the hit that Chemo just did, maybe she doesn't notice this sentry program kind of going around to her, like basically behind her, and all of a sudden I would imagine there's hopefully a prick as a sword is going to go up into her back. Whatever the sentry's weapon is, they have those smaller swords, right?
Yeah, kind of like a short sword equivalent.
Yeah.
Oh no, the sentries have kind of like a staff. It's like a bow staff. But
okay. So
yeah, the ends still kind of function piercing wise.
Yeah, so that would is what this sentry will be doing
Okay.
while she's distracted.
So this is subtlety, because you're trying kind of a deceptive move here.
Yeah.
And you have the disguise on, so I'm going to say that you're prepared in this situation. There's security. And I mean, again, you're a security program, so behaving like a security program is not something that would be difficult for you. I would say that you qualify for 3 dice in this particular situation.
All right. Mm-hmm.
But she is definitely rattled and on edge, so I am going to take a die back away for difficulty.
That is 2 successes.
Okay. So she's only got a D4 on her health remaining. So let's see how that turns out. Okay, the first is a 4. Describe, if you would please, how you de-res the architect.
So I imagine, so Chemo is there and he's just shoved this half disc into her face and she's bleeding and looking at him almost, I can imagine she's almost like, the confidence hasn't left her and maybe she's giving him that little wry smile as she turns to maybe strike back at him, when all of a sudden Chemo can see her eyes kind of widen with almost shock as this butt of the this bow staff kind of pierces out through her chest and she just completely melts in these cubes.
Excellent. The architect de-reses with kind of this high-pitched, cascading scream, and she falls to pieces, quite literally, across the floor. So, here's what I think I'm going to do. I want to get this disc into this terminal. The forces outside are going to be responding. And there's going to be some things that have happened with the architect having been taken out in the process of what she was doing. So I think I want to handle this still in initiative order. And I'm going to have you guys continue to roll for accomplishing the goal of getting this disc in and getting it activated. And I'm just going to look for a certain number of successes to be like, you've done it, the threshold. So let's say, okay, so with what's going on, anybody who's taking an action towards that goal, you'll get to roll 2 dice for the rest of the scene. And I'm going to look for, let's call it 8 successes. Does that sound fair to you guys?
Okay. So I would like towards completing that goal. As soon as this fight has stopped, I kind of just slip out of my shackles, and I look to the area of the door that we walked in to see if there's a control panel, and I want to try and hack this control panel to keep anybody that's outside this room. So 2
probably,
dice.
Probably knowledge.
Yeah, I would guess so. That's what I've been rolling for hacking stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
That is 2 successes. So
excellent. Okay, so that's 2 of the 8 already, and that was, I think that was only the second PC slot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the architect has spilled out onto the floor, and almost in part of the same. As a part of the same motion, some of the walls around you, you can see begin to lose that their opacity. They become that kind of ghostly, glowing cyan color again, and you can see kind of the strands of code and the pixels kind of running throughout as it's kind of just starting to unmake itself in a certain section of this room. Okay. That's all of bad guys. So the other 3 PC slots.
Seeing Actel find one of these screens to begin the process of blocking off the one entrance, only to see one of the walls begin to deteriorate. A bend would be also looking to try and find somewhere to jack into. That way, he would basically want to jack into the same position that Actel is, and in any good hacker fashion, I would begin to try and piggyback off of what he's done, and I would want to try and solidify that wall, and I would want to keep the building program going, but I would want to try and fashion it in a way that the portions that are now being built are going to make getting to us more difficult.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's see. Again, I think knowledge is probably going to be the go-to for most of the hacking stuff. You are a hacker, so that will absolutely give you a second die. You're piggybacking off of what Actel is doing, so I think that'll be a third. But again, the program that she was using was very specialized, was very personal to her. So I think I'm going to take a die back again for difficulty. So I think a 2 dice situation.
All right, so I got 1 success and I got 1 right on. And then you had mentioned that we had also we had received a point previous. We
Correct.
had all received a point.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like to also extend that point.
Okay, so you're going to cash in two GMPs?
Yes.
And then you got a success with the dice.
Yeah. So I want to try and I want to make it all 3 successes and have it in some sort of way that, maybe as I'm hacking, I realize that this coding that I'm trying to hack into is specific to the architect, and maybe somehow realizing this, I grab her disk and try and take some of the coding off of that and bleed it into the code that we're both currently trying to feed in to solidify it a little more, to actually have the program now working with us instead of working so hard against us.
Absolutely. I'll even say, like, you picked up the architect's disk and your own. You looked around and didn't find another access point in the room, and then you turn and you see that glowing pedestal, the kind of the main terminal, and you run over and you kind of like are able to put both disks in and use your disk as kind of the conduit to access a lot of the programming and stuff on her disk. And being in the main terminal, quickly you're able to kind of start to re-solidify that wall again. And just as you're doing so, you can see the Blackguard defenders coming kind of down the corridors and things, making their way towards this room. And you can also see above you the light tank is starting to make its way down a ramp. But as you see that happening, the wall kind of like pixelates back to opacity in front of your eyes.
We need that half disk over here now.
Who's closer to the pedestal, myself or Kaz?
You guys tell me.
What is Kaz doing during all this? I guess that would help us determine.
Well, before the interaction with the architect, Kaz would have just been part of the other group, wouldn't have stepped forward or made any spectacle of himself at all.
So then I imagine chemo would be closer.
Yeah. All right. So I guess I will start. I will run this disc over to the pedestal and try and. I mean, I'm not a hacker. Stick it in the hole.
There went our PG rating. Sorry,
Hey.
Disney. No. So, let's see. Again, I think this disc, this is exactly what this thing was designed to do. You're sitting at 5 out of 8 successes.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Let's roll 3 dice. Let's see. I guess this would be speed.
All right. So that is 1 success. That is 2 successes. And that is a 2. So it's 2 successes and then
Okay.
1 dead on my number. So.
All right. So that is 7 out of 8 successes. You do get a GMP. And I think that only leaves us with Kaz.
Okay, so I guess the with the disc being jammed in, it might have take some time to affect the rest of the building, or I don't know if it would have been damaged at all being stabbed through the architect's face. So I would guess that Kaz would also be running towards the pedestal along with chemo, and once it's stabbed into the hole into the console, he would kind of bring up the code so that it's being shown above as well, and make sure that all of the coding is still intact to do its function and make any quick repairs if it did sustain any damage. It's in being used as a weapon.
Excellent. Okay. So again, this is what you do. However, this is an abstract usage of your skills. You're not trying to bring a program back. You're not trying to repair, damaged, not tissue, but whatever it would be called, matter. So I think you get 3 dice. No, you know what? We're clutch right now. I'm gonna make it 2 dice, but then I'm gonna take 1 away for difficulty. So it hinges on your die roll. No pressure.
What skill would I be going for with this?
What did we use for your healing last time? Was it knowledge?
I think so.
Does knowledge sound good to you?
Yeah, I'll
Perfect.
do knowledge.
Let's do it.
Okay, so that was a success.
So please tell me what it looks like as you fully integrate this viral disk into the main terminal of this building.
So I guess as soon as the one particular coding spot is rectified, I guess the problem, the code is all ready to go. A white pulse matching the disk's color pulses up through the rest of the building and changes the pedestal's color altogether, as it kind of has a ripple effect through the entire building that almost causes Kaz to then just kind of almost fall off the pedestal, off balance. Yeah.
Perfect. And as this pulse kind of goes up through this building, there's kind of this electric, like the opposite of an electric increase in the hum. There's just kind of this kind of powering down noise, and everything about this building comes to a screeching halt. Each of you, if you would, please, you have the opportunity to describe a portion of the 5 of you in your harrowing escape from the remaining Blackguard defenders and light tanks.
So I think towards the exit, right, when we're more above ground, so that there's more light tanks. There comes a moment where a blast sends Chemo reeling and perhaps against the wall, stunning him really hard. And in his blurred vision, he can see this light tank that has just sort of said, F it all, and is pointing towards him regardless of what it's going to hit. And you can hear that charging noise as it prepares to fire. And so he just closes his eyes, all right, well, this is it. And in a moment, the light tank turns that green color. And the sentry that's in charge of piloting it, we see his image flicker for a moment. And it's overwritten with the image of Volkor, since it's his disc that was corrupting the architect's programming. And he smiles and says, "This isn't forever," and turns the light cannon back towards another light cannon, fires, and gives Chemo a chance to sort of slip out of the complex.
I think at one point, as we're running maybe towards that exit where that scene that we just saw happened, earlier we were in a corridor and we maybe rounded a corner and there was some blackguards that were right there ready to stop us. And Void basically reaches behind her and grabs that identity disc that she had been using to make her a sentry and throws it at these blackguards, derezzing one and causing enough commotion as she changes it back into her regular appearance, enough that they can eliminate the other two and then carry on down that the corridor.
Yeah, I think that the Axel is, again, just running as hard as he can, but trying to stop. Maybe he's running out ahead of everybody when he gets a chance to, but then stops and is just throwing everything he can into the system to lock doors and put things in between us and our pursuers.
And I think Kaz would draw the sentry disc as kind of a in-hand weapon of offense and defense as needed for the more constricted corridors during their escape. And then as soon as there's a bit more space out, he would throw the disc into the largest cluster of blackguards at the time, and then almost immediately split his baton into the two parts and turn on the light cycle with the light in the back and speed off while trying to draw as many light lines in front of any light tanks that might be nearby to cut off their path, unless they want to walk right into it and blow up.
I think a band during the departure from the building, he would have been the last one to leave the pedestal. He would have been the last one to basically kind of follow up behind everyone. So Void has kind of gone through and cleared several of the blackguards, making it an easier escape route. And as he is making his way through, he sees on the pads that Actil has already kind of thrown in some buggy programming to kind of buy the rest of the group some time. So seeing this and seeing basically the chaos unfolding and seeing the actual resistance begin to take hold, as the rest of the group makes their way out into the open, and Abend sees the light tank unfolding and sees the hacking of the one light tank, and it begins to take out some of the other light tanks. He remembers the really basic, really shoddy programming that he previously encountered with some of these worker programs. So his last effort into ensuring that the group escapes is to get onto one of these pads and link into the collective programming of the worker programs to define their one collective sole goal as de-resing the Black Guards. And as he hits that enter, you see all of these twitchy, blank programs spring up and begin to actively throwing themselves in front of these Black Guards in an attempt to slow their progress, as Abend meets up with the rest of the group to try and escape.
The five of you peel away into Tron City to disappear and lay low. And as you pull away and we watch these rectified programs swarm over the remaining Blackguard, de-resing them in the process, we pan away from the carnage that's unfolding in the courtyard of this facility up to one of the high-rise buildings only a few blocks away with a perfect view of what's going on. And we see two silhouettes standing atop the edge of the building beside one another. One of them with a blue T across his chest. That is where we're going to end. So thank you very, very much. You guys were fantastic. This was... I just can't even tell you how much fun I had this evening with this game. So thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this and for making it into something that was really, really enjoyable to be a part of. I'm so happy with the way that this game turned out. If you happen to be watching this evening, thank you very, very much for tuning in. I appreciate it sincerely. If you're watching later on, I appreciate that as well. If you like what you saw, please do hit the like button, subscribe, that kind of stuff. There's plenty more on the channel. There's a lot more of the Expedition engine with its different flavors that you can find elsewhere on the channel, as well as the other games that I run with some of these clowns. But speaking of which, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to these very lovely people so that they can do their outros, tell you bye-bye, that they love you, etc. And then we're going to put a bow on it. So, let's go with Karen first.
Thank you again for a most enjoyable game, Jeremy. That was great. It was nice to jump into this and kind of live a little bit of the childhood again of Tron. Thank you to all the players. You guys were absolutely amazing. I love playing with each and every one of you. What else we're saying? Oh yeah, I love you and good night.
Well done. Well done. Yeah, absolutely. I'm so just, I feel awesome. All right, next up, Dwight.
All right, yeah, this was amazing. It was, it's always fun. I love games like this, especially when they're kind of RP heavy. You can really get into the heads of the characters, even on a one shot when it takes you a good half a session to get comfortable. But I felt like that we kind of figured out who we were, and it played out really well, and it was a lot of fun. So yeah, I would be totally down to play some more of this somewhere in the future. So yeah, you can find me again on Monday nights on Twitch at MiniTerrainDomain's channel. You can find me on Twitter at Big Bearded Nerd, where I paint Warhammer 40K minis moderately decent, and talk about weird nerd stuff. So yeah, thanks everybody.
It was a pleasure to have you, man. I'm glad that I was able to finally run a game for you. Thank you for coming on. And again, like I jumped in over the past probably week and a half or so to kind of relearn a lot of what I'd seen and read with Tron. And it's awesome to get the chance to play with other people who understand the lore and stuff behind a lot of the Tron universe. And you certainly brought that to the game, so thank you.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thanks.
Excellent. All right, next up we have Leslie.
Yeah, this game was a lot of fun. First time playing Expedition Engine, and yeah, you don't really get bogged down with rules and like, oh, what am I gonna do next? Like in playing just a regular like 5e or something. I'm constantly just looking through the book. Whereas yeah, this engine just kind of allows you to just think creatively and less rule based some more. So it's definitely newbie friendly. Yeah, I had a lot of fun just developing my role playing more with this because yeah, I can count the amount of characters I've played on one hand at this point. But yeah, it was good fun. Good balance of combat and role play. Great game. Thanks.
Likewise, very excited to have had the chance to run a game for you, Leslie. I appreciate you coming in and trying it out, especially with it with you being new to the system as well as just to kind of the process in general. You did a phenomenal job. I would never have been able to tell. So thank you. All right, next up we have Seth.
All right, I just want to start off by saying that I had so much fun in this game tonight, and I'm really glad that I was able to make it. There were some behind the scenes things that were going on, and there was a brief moment where I was not sure I'd be able to attend this. So I'm so glad that I was able to make it. Had a blast. The setting is a setting that I've loved for since my childhood. The people I've played with several of you on multiple occasions, and every single time it is just an absolute blast, and I've always had so much fun doing it. To the two that I have not played with before, it was fantastic, and I would be so thrilled to play in a game with you guys again. It was fantastic. It was awesome. I just couldn't get enough. It was a fantastic game. I do not myself have anything to plug, so I am going to use my brief bit of time to shamelessly plug everyone else in the group that has something. I want you guys to go, and I want you guys to show their pages and their channels some love. Give them all the support they can get, because without people like you, stuff like this doesn't going to happen as often. So get out there and really help these people out.
Thank you, Seth. I appreciate that, man. I heartily agree. Like I said, everybody who mentions a project that they're associated with or a channel that they have, you should be able to find that in the description of this video down below. And if it's not there, players, please let me know, and I will put it there. You guys are awesome, and I definitely want you guys to bask in the glory that you've earned from the excellent stuff that you guys do. Speaking of excellent stuff, last but certainly not least, Steve.
Excellent stuff, like stuffed peppers. Jeremy, awesome game, man. It's like, I mean, I played a lot of games that you really nailed the vibe on this. It was very excellent. I appreciate that, man. And then if you aren't subscribed to his channel, subscribe to his channel, and then you can come and check out Karen and I shenanigans together again on the 16th, I think. right? Yeah.
Yes, sir. Monday.
Although I guess our characters don't shenanigan together very often. You can watch our shenanigans with Baron, and that's well worth watching. And then get together with myself and Jeremy and Jeff Doty on the 30th to participate in Sunderhearth. Jump in, chat in the YouTube video so that we can see those comments, because that does also help develop what we're doing. Every suggestion in there gets talked about afterwards. I promise you. And other than that, thank you all for playing. It was a pleasure. Outside of Karen, I don't remember playing with anybody. So if I did, I'm a terrible human being, and that's okay. But this was excellent. So thank you all very much.
I mean, I guess you're all right, Steve. No, I'm kidding. Love you, brother. No, I'm glad that you hopped in this game as well. Again, having people who kind of get the feel for Tron is, because it is such a flavor-heavy setting. It's a lot about the way things look visually, the way things sound. It relies very heavily on those things, and you guys absolutely nailed it. So thank you very much for being a part of this game. Before I say thank you again, I'm going to go ahead and try to end this. Yeah, it was a blast. Until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.